Hey everyone, if you like what we do, make sure to give us a rating on Apple Podcasts and follow us wherever you can listen to podcasts. We are on all of them. That way we can keep talking about the stuff that we love, and that is animation. And now, onto this super heroic episode.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Renegade Capes. I mean, Renegade Animation. Sorry. My name is Mike. I'll be your host for this evening. Joining me, as always, is the animation guru himself, Cameron.
Howdy, howdy.
In case you can't tell, we have a very super episode this week. We've got reviews for Catwoman, Hunted, The Boys Presents, Diabolical, and I know we're like a month late, but we're finally getting around to the last 6 episodes of Kid Cosmic. But first, we've got some trailers to talk about. So, Cameron, what do we got?
Well, first off, I wanted to talk about this trailer since I forgot about it last time. It's the trailer for a French animated film called Icarus, or Icard, as it's known there, and it's going to be launching at the end of this month in March. And what's fun about this was it's directed by Carlo Volgele, a former Pixar animator. And the original pitch trailer or the concept trailer showed up in 2017. And the original idea was that Zeus, Poseidon, and Aphrodite would be like working at like a newspaper business and such. They were trying to reinvent the Greek mythological stories in like new, exciting ways for the modern human interest. No, that doesn't mean like putting memes and pop culture references. It's more just like, let's make a spicy new version of like the story of Icarus or the Minotaur story. Unfortunately, they cut that part out of the trailer, and I don't think you can find the footage of that anymore, which is a shame because that's what really got my attention for the film. But now we have a more straightforward retelling of like Greek mythology. And unfortunately, there's no US distribution yet, but I wouldn't be shocked
Ooh.
if like Netflix, G Kids, or whoever else is awaiting in the shadows like Batman to see how well this film does critically and be like, you know what, we want it because everyone needs new content. I hate to be that cynical, but it's where we are in the world.
This feels like something that G Kids would snatch up at like the last second. And I hope they do because the trailer looks amazing. And it does kind of remind me a little bit of the team behind Long Way North and Calamity. That's just really cool seeing, that like painting style coming to life.
Yeah, and the stylized take on the CGI is actually very impressive. And so here's the plot synopsis. On the island of Crete, every corner is a playground for Icarus, the son of the great inventor Daedalus. During an exploration near the palace of Knossos, the little boy makes a strange discovery. A child with the head of a bull is locked up there by order of King Minos. In secret from his father, Icarus will befriend a young minotaur named Asterion, but fate changes when the latter is taken into a labyrinth. Can Icarus save his friend and change the course of a story written by the gods? So I think that's pretty good. I love the bull minotaur design. It has a very distinct look to it. It's not just a typical muscular male, like human male body with just the bull head or whatever. There's something very ethereal about it.
Oh, yeah.
We also got the official trailer for the upcoming Netflix anime film Bubble, which is, being produced by Studio Wit, the Attack on Titan people, and is directed by the same person who directed Attack on Titan, with character designs by the same person who does the same designs for Death Note. Look, it's just the designs. Seeing a more like story driven trailer for it is nice because I was kind of curious about the whole mystery behind everything. And it just looks great. Studio Wit puts out some great stuff.
I might go as far as to say that Wit is in my top 5 favorite anime studios right now because they seem to really focus on quality over anything else.
Well, that's what happens when Wit Studios is like, hey, we got a ton of things on our plate already. So do not try to force us to do more than we can, which is pretty much the big downfall of the anime industry right now, where too many studios are taking on too many projects and stretching their teams thin. And that's just not good or healthy for any of these studios. And that's what's causing burnout. Not to say that Wit is like above and beyond every other studio. I think the only studio that I never hear anything bad about is Kyo Annie. But that's because it's like they are like in that situation of I can do whatever I want.
Mhm.
But with all that said, Bubble does look great. It has a fun sci-fi spin to its premise. I just wish it wasn't at the end of April. Like, don't make me wait. We're already in a drought for animated films right now. But we'll have to see if there's like anything else in April outside of, the bad guys and all that stuff.
Yeah, as much as I'm looking forward to the bad guys, these next couple months feel a bit anemic.
I mean, we'll have to see because, we're also going to have our next topic of trailer discussion. We got a new teaser for the DC League of Super Pets, which focuses on Ace and it introduces Keanu Reeves as Batman. I think this was a much better trailer. It had a lot more of that stylish, artistic approach that I think we were kind of hoping it would have. Because I think the first trailer just kind of left people a little unimpressed. And of course, with the new Batman film doing gangbusters right now, they probably wanted to show this off.
Oh yeah. Now is like the best time to give us another trailer anyway because the movie is out in a little over 2 months. And B, I wish I actually saw this trailer in theaters as opposed to the first one because yeah, that first one doesn't look great on the big screen because you can tell the animation isn't like quite rendered yet. They still have more polish to go. At least with this trailer, yes, I'm excited because Keanu Reeves is playing Batman, but it does look like they have more shine on it.
Yeah, no, and Keanu Reeves is just a good get for any film that you have. And I'm sure he's having a lot of fun playing Batman in a more comedic approach. I know a few people are kind of mixed on the design as a whole for Batman. I want to see what the other humans look like compared to Batman and Superman that we've seen. Because
Same.
I understand it's kind of a weird design.
Yeah, they're very, I want to say they look almost toyetic a little bit. Like this movie is, marketing some new toy line that doesn't actually exist.
Right. And I did laugh a few times during the trailer, like when Batman's just like, I work alone, except for Robin and Alfred and my entire IT team and whoever Morgan Freeman played.
That last part killed me.
I like the squeaky toy one where it's just like, if that's not an officially licensed toy, I'm going to freak. I mean, I know Batman isn't technically that kind of character. He's saying like, cool, whatever. Which, would be like the Justice League Kevin Conroy version. But I'm looking forward to this one a little more now. I know like some of these trailers are not aiming at someone like me, where I'm just like, I'm here for the animation. I want to see what you're offering. They're aiming at kids because that's the actual audience for these things. Not very much the hardcore DC side of things. because I think most people just know about Crypto and Ace the Bat Hound, and that's pretty much it in terms of the super pets. Unless their parents were like, "Yeah, did you know they had like a small zoo-sized list of super animals?" But that's all I really have to say.
Yeah, same. I'm now looking at the actual creative team. I'm a little bit more excited given who's writing and directing. It is the same people who wrote the Lego Batman movie, and that movie's awesome. My hope for this has risen ever so slightly. For those who don't know, it's being directed by Jared Stern, and he's co-writing with John Winnington. They worked on the Lego Batman movie and the Lego Ninjago movie, both of which I enjoyed quite a bit. And they also worked on Green Eggs and Ham.
Oh yeah, and we're getting a new season. We're finally getting that second quote unquote season.
We'll talk about that later.
Well, actually, I think let's start with Kid Cosmic because I feel like that's the one that has the least amount to talk about because it was only 6 episodes. I overall enjoyed it, but I do have some mixed feelings about it, and I don't particularly know. I don't want to be like, okay, who's behind all this kind of way of like approaching this. It's more just like, did they really want 6 episodes, or did Netflix do something?
I'm actually kind of thinking it's the opposite. I think this was always meant to be like they even kind of are a little bit meta about it in the last episode. I think this was always meant to be a 24 episode miniseries, but the way Netflix split this up kind of it felt like it was unevenly distributed. Season 1 was 10 episodes, and then season 2 was only 8, and season 3, this one is 6. If this was like on Cartoon Network or maybe even Amazon Prime, and they just like released it all at once or just on a consistent basis, it wouldn't feel as well, I guess rushed in the sense that these last 6 episodes are like they do a lot to try to wrap up each character arc and bring the story to its natural conclusion.
The overall summary of this season is that it picks up from the ending of season 2. And again, every time we say season, just put parentheses around that because we'll talk about that in a moment. And they are there on Earth. They're the heroes of Earth. And in the first 2 or so episodes, they are, you know, taking care of stuff like a dog that has like that ate a invisible stone or a guy who has a giant stone. And then it starts to get a little more like complicated than that. When spoilers by the way, Papa G is like he reveals that the world that they are currently in is not the real world. I was really curious about that, but I do think the 6 episode limit was it felt like it had to like squish everything together. Like there wasn't a real lot of time to like let some of these later plot points breathe out. Not that I didn't like it. I love Papa G's like reasoning for keeping Kid in this fictional fantasy realm of it. So it's just like, hey, all this stuff is happening just like in his comics because that's kind of like what he escaped into after the tragic accident he was in when he was a kid.
Do you think like would you wanted to see maybe like 1 or 2 more episodes just like in the fantasy world just so that the reveal could have a bit more punch?
I think that's what it should have been because it feels like right we're in the second episode is when it all kicks off that it's a fictional fantasy world. And then by the third episode, we find out that this was all by what's his name? Bobby Moynihan's villain character.
Oh, Phantos.
Yeah, Phantos put them into this fantasy world because of another gem or something. Like I guess I got a little confused about that. Like, was there another power stone?
Oh, yeah. Papa G's good luck charm.
Okay, so that's how it was connected. Like I must have either missed something about that because I was just like, okay, so how did Phantos do all of this? Though I will say I love when they like mess with Phantos by putting him into a fantasy world. And it's just like fighting them, and then his mom comes back and he's just like, Mom, you're here. Do you love destroying the world and ruling the universe as much as I do? Okay, awesome. Now make me some popcorn and we'll do this. Wait a minute. My mom doesn't love me. And it's like, oh. I thought that was very interesting because I was thinking like, oh, so it's just done. Like, I don't know what I was expecting with this new season. I guess that's why I'm kind of like positive and negative about where the story goes with it because it seems like okay, so they're going to be on Earth and like helping this government organization collecting all the stones and such, and then realizing it's like oh, it's all fake and they were stuck there because of Phantos, and Phantos has been rebuilding Erodius, get out in the galaxy and what have you.
In hindsight, everything about the setup for this season seemed a bit too good to be true. I actually kind of disagree with you that it was the last episode of the series that kind of convinced me that this was exactly where we needed to be. It was Joe who caught on pretty quick that, like, wait a minute, something's not right here. I kind of feel like in that instance, she was like the audience surrogate in that moment.
Yeah, she was. Though I will say I did love some of the pun names with the villains, like the documentarian, which I know he was a like a sort of play on that one Marvel villain. I forgot which one that is. With the one where it's like his face would be in his chest, but he'd have like a video camera head or something. I forgot what the villain was named.
The first thing that came to my mind was he is definitely like the villain version of Werner Herzog.
Oh yeah. No, I remember now. He was the character that was in the Winter Soldier, who was like the scientist from
Oh,
back in the
Zola.
day. Yeah, that's who I was thinking of. Because that's exactly what Zola's character design is in like some of the comics, where he'd have like this big metal face plate that, or like this video thing where his face would show, and then video camera head. Like a lot of this show is still great. The action is still a lot of fun. The animation's fantastic. These designs are just great. I love the look of everything, and it is still fun to see a the whole Powerpuff Girls Easter eggs with the three agents
Oh
because it was
yeah,
just Craig McCracken's way of saying like, yeah, these are the totally not copyrighted Powerpuff Girls. But yeah, I was kind of expecting. I think Papa G was going to be the main focus of this season. I kind of thought about that when the news of when this next season was dropping, because I think that makes sense. You got Kid, then you got Joe, and then Papa G, like the two of the people who are the most connected with Kid.
mm-hmm.
And I like that we got to learn a little more about Papa G. I think it was either the last or the second to last episode when you finally see like the backstory of the tragic accident that took Kid's parents, and then what it was like at first with Papa G taking care of Kid. That was some very mature storytelling. Like, or just a very different approach. I guess like when I say mature, it was more just like it was quiet. It was very visual, story driven, and that song that plays within like during that little montage of Kid putting the bike together. And they were still able to find a lot of like good jokes all throughout this season though. Like especially with Papa G, and I kind of wish there like Stanley was around so they could have just made that parody reference,
Same.
because I know that's what the whole reference was Stanley, which well, it made me kind of sad, but I would know Stanley would love that to be this cool talking car.
He would.
What did you think about like when we go from them helping the world then finding that the world that they were in was fake? Like,
It reminded me a lot of the first season when it was revealed that Papa G he faked the whole Kid Cosmic defeating those, what were they, robots or something?
yeah, robots.
It definitely brought things full circle with Kid and Papa G's relationship.
Yeah, that's easily the core and the heart of this whole season, and really just the whole show. Because Papa G really does care about Kid, and it's just like he might not be doing the right thing to make him happy. And even like they play up the Papa G mini men side of him, where his like clones are kind of like his angel and his devil side of his conscience, where they're just saying like, you really should tell Kid about what's going to happen. And it's like, no, just keep the fantasy of it, man. Like he's happy. What isn't that more important and such? And as much as as Phantos was not really a major, I mean, he was a major part of the last half of this season, but he was kind of in and out like that.
Yeah. He was really just there for like one last showdown and then he was gone.
Well, he was gone because Herodias just ate him. I was a little shocked about that. I was curious about how they were going to get rid of him. And it's like, oh, okay. Oh, got absorbed into the planet. All right, makes sense. And the whole theme of this season is that it's about healing. And that's what they kind of pick up that Herodias was a planet that was damaged, and then like it went through the galaxy. It kept absorbing other planets to try to fix itself. It does bring like the full like story back to where it all started. I know we kind of talked about where we said like Craig was more of a character based cartoonist than a storyteller.
This is really the first time that he not only tried his hand at like a serial animated series, but he still is great at like writing iconic characters. But he really pushed himself creatively with this series, and I'm honestly incredibly impressed with what he's done.
Yeah, and man, that ending though, where Papa G gives up his stone, that was like the most emotionally gripping part of that story. Like just, and in a lot of ways, I was glad that they did not kill him off right there. Like, even though he said he's 112.
Yeah, 111, 112.
Yeah, he didn't just turn to dust instantly. They kept him around, but he's like obviously aged like aggressively fast due to like the power of the stone and such. And I like that they talk about the origin of the stone and just how he found it as a kid, and it like overall it's just a good story. And then I like how like there weren't any real tricks at the end of it, even though Kid was kind of hoping that there was like a joke or like something there. I thought they handled the ending very well. Like for all like I can talk about with just the pacing of the story and just how it was all set up. I think it matters more that it makes the landing.
Agreed. Well, the last two episodes I'd say are what cemented it for me that I might go as far as to say this is Craig McCracken's best show, or at the very least his most mature.
I think I would go with most mature. I think it's kind of tough because a lot of his shows are varied in just what kind of show they are. You got the Powerpuff Girls, you got Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, you got Wander Over Yonder, and then now you have Kid Cosmic.
And one thing I
And
love is that he's never done like the same style twice visually. So whatever he does next is not going to look anything similar to Powerpuff Girls or Kid Cosmic or anything in between.
I mean, like in general, I think it does cap off a really good series that definitely feel like though that something at Netflix, like something happened there because we're currently going through and supporting the fight for or people working in the animation industry to get better working deals and more money, more benefits, better working conditions. And then, of course, the whole thing with Cuphead being like, "We're getting a second season." And it's just like, you already said you're getting 48 episodes, and the way you do it in batches is basically screwing over the teams making these shows for you. And HBO Max got called out for this when they were announced that Jellystone season 2 was coming out, even though it's basically season 1B. I don't know, maybe any of my complaints, I still kind of stand by them, but I'm also just wondering how much of this was Netflix's meddling. And maybe it wasn't meddled at all. Maybe this is what Craig McCracken actually wanted to do. He wanted to end it on just 6 episodes, but I don't know. It's just tough to kind of think about it right now with what's going on and all the news stories about how Netflix and HBO Max, and I guess like that's just what I'm thinking about right now, like with why like I'm kind of hesitant to criticize the show a little.
That's kind of my thing too. Creatively, I feel like this was, if not 100%, then 95% McCracken's full creative vision. The way it was released seems a bit wonky. That might be why you have the feelings that you did. Or maybe these were just kind of points in the story that Netflix was like, yeah, we'll release this batch here, and then this batch here. We don't have full story, but we do know that we love this story and that you guys should all check out Kid Cosmic if you haven't already.
Yeah, it was still one of the best shows from last year, and last year gave us a lot of great shows, especially
Oh,
with like
yeah.
Centaur World, City of Ghosts, Kid Cosmic. It was just a good year for animation. No matter what the knuckleheads in the animations fandoms say, just don't take those knuckleheads seriously. It's
Never.
okay to not like a show as much as other people, but to say that 2021 was the worst year ever is just ignorant and misinformed. Now, let's talk about this spinoff of Amazon's The Boys with The Boys Presents Diabolical.
This show is kind of fun, at least in concept. What we have here are 8 different shorts by 8 different creative teams, each one kind of representing a different animation style. The first one, Laser Baby's Day Out, is an homage to the golden era of animation. You know, everything from like the Looney Tune to the MGM shorts to a little bit of Hanna-Barbera in there too, mostly in like the facial designs. Episode 2 is an animated short where pissed off soups kill their parents. This is basically Rick and Morty, but minus Dan Harmon. It was written by Justin Roiland and Ben Bayouth, and it's like it is Justin's aesthetic, like from
Yeah, no,
top to
it's
bottom.
basically solar opposites and Rick and Morty's art style shoved into the world of The Boys. We'll talk a little more about that when we I
Yeah.
want to go just quickly go through these before we talk about them overall.
Oh yeah.
So, like, our third one is, I'm Your Pusher, which has the original creator of the comic writing this one. And this one is more just like akin to what the visuals of the comic were. And then we have Boyd in 3D, which was inspired by the French comics and animation, which you can absolutely tell. And I can say that it was one of the same studios that worked on Ernest and Celestine.
I was gonna ask you if there was a connection there because the facial expressions kind of tipped me off. Episode 5 is BFFs, which was written by Aquafina, and on Wikipedia it says this is the style is Saturday morning animation imports, but
It's like looking back at your memories of watching like when Japanese animation was getting brought over in the 80s, and it
so stuff like Speed
like
Racer or Samurai Pizza Cats.
like stuff like that where it was just kind of like bring it over, do whatever you want to it because we got to make this marketable to our very limited narrow viewpoint of demographics, which is why, stuff like Escaflowne got butchered upon release the first time around, where they were trying to make the main character of the show the male character when the main character of the show was a girl. It only lasted 10 episodes before Bandai, I think, said like, okay, you know what? We'll re-release this and actually just give you what you want. Screw you, Saban Entertainment.
Mhm. Getting back to the boys,
Yeah.
episode 6 is Nubian versus Nubian. Again, Wikipedia calls this anime inspired, and I don't know, it seemed a bit more like just kind of that general anime-esque style that you see in like kind of Studio Mirror, but a little bit closer to what we saw in like Invincible.
Well, technically that's accurate. It says anime inspired. It's that style that you would see for stuff like you said, it's like Studio Mirror, it's like the Voltron aesthetic and such from DreamWorks. And it was written by Aisha Tyler, which like good on her. This next one is considered the best of the 8 shorts, John and Soon Hee, which was written by Andy Samberg.
Yeah, I when when I saw that, I'm like, wait.
What? I mean, like, not to say that he's not a smart guy. He's obviously super talented. His band is always super funny and creative. I'm sure there's always this kind of notion that, like, if you can hit it out of the park with comedy, then you can easily slip into drama.
And he kind of proves that here.
Like, he can, like, I know, what was that film in 2020? Palm Springs.
Yep.
Like, he showed that he can be serious, even though he's mostly played very goofy roles along with like his music stuff. But it was really interesting to see him here write a really straightforward dramatic story. And it's like the least like of the boys in terms of like style and tone. It's more just a story. And taking it out of the universe of the boys and it could stand on its own.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what I like about it. But to cap it all off, we have 1 + 1 = 2, which it's going to sound weird, but I watched this first before the boys. So this was an interesting kind of to like, here's what's wrong with or the main poster boy of the show outside of what's actually going on with the actor who plays Homelander right now. So as we're recording this and such, he got arrested for being intoxicated and he got into a fight apparently. But
Yeah.
So overall, like, would you say that this show translated the tone and the vibe and the world of the boys well into the world of animation with all these different styles? Because to me, it's like it takes the idea of the boys of like, here are superheroes who are basically PR mascots for a big, questionable, shady tech corporation with the whole drug that gives people superpowers and ends up with like, it's definitely like that kind of mindset of wouldn't these stories have like these little incidences? Like, what would it be like to have a baby with superpowers and what have you? Or like, what happens if someone got powers, but they weren't really good powers? In that regards, I think it works great.
I kind of like how experimental this show is in that each like different animation style kind of almost in a sense like reflects the tone of like the narrative, at least to a certain extent. Among my favorite shorts, one of them was obviously the first one because I am such a big fan of those classic animated shorts. It's just really funny to see like a baby superhero causing so much chaos and destruction.
I mean, I think that's kind of the thing. If you just tweaked the tone of the boys just a little to the left, it would be just a dark comedy.
Pretty much.
I mean, the first episode pretty much shows that, like, hey, what would happen if, what if the Flash accidentally did run into someone at top speed? Because of course, like with Justice League and whatnot, they show him like, oh, he's able to stop on a dime. But what if he was not that careful? Which is what ignites the whole series, but with A Train and what have you. So it's like I think it makes sense that they make a Looney Tune style thing with just the violent mentality of an itchy and scratchy short.
Yep. My other favorite is Nubian versus Nubian, because something we don't see often or often enough are like parents who are both superheroes who are kind of going through marital issues, how that affects the children.
Yeah, I think that was very clever and a very creative story, and I loved seeing Don Cheadle and Aisha Tyler, and then of course John DiMaggio as Groundhog. Just like sorry, I knocked down my door because I don't have hands. They're just hammers. Oh, that's a shame.
My other favorite, which I genuinely think is the best, is John and Soon Hee.
It's just a gripping story.
Yeah. It kind of reminded me of the art style a little bit of Science Saru.
Well, let's see. The show is not very good at saying like who was animating.
The only one I see on Wikipedia credited is Tight Mouse.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem though, that they're not the only ones there. And you'd have to go to do the go through the credits to find them, because that's how I had to go through it, because like I'm Your Pusher was done by Edge Animation. Edge Animation did a lot of the shorts. And then we have like Boyd in 3D was done by Falivari. And then of course the one that Justin Roiland worked on was done by Mighty Animation. Then Studio Animal worked on John and Soon Hee. Well, they're a Korean studio, so they worked on properties from there. And then, and I had to go around and like one of the few places outside of the credits that would talk about this is this one Screen Rant article, and it's just like, don't want to give them any time of day, but yeah, let's see here. It's by a studio called Snipple that did Laser Baby's Day Out. I think like even with all the varying degrees of animation or like of visual styles, it still felt like everything was cohesive. It was still like The Boys, but it's just using this style or that style and such, which was kind of interesting because you would think it would get kind of jarring, especially when you have someone as identifiable as hell as Justin Roiland. But it never got that distracting. Now, I think some of the stories were better than others, and it's mostly my criticisms are just like very nitpicky. And like I think BFFs is fine. I just think it had the weakest jokes and humor.
They literally relied on toilet humor.
And it's like not that it doesn't have its funny moments, and then like Aquafina does like a solid job and such with like voicing the main character and writing this whole thing. And I like some of the jokes at the end, like how she gets back at those two very awful friends.
They're the worst.
And then the song that plays at the end of the credits is great. And then when it was stuff with like Nubian versus Nubian, I do like the whole angle of like, yeah, the divorce angle. And then like they find out that they only get along when they beat the tar out of supervillains. And then of course get really aroused in bed after beating the tar out of people, which is like not a good thing for the kid to see. And then of course at the end she's just like, listen, it's for the best for everyone if you sign these divorce papers.
Also, where's my goddamn pony?
Yeah, I'm going to get that pony. And 1 + 1 = 2. It's not my favorite of the shorts, but you kind of like, again, I kind of spoiled basically the whole arc of and reveal of what Homelander's deal is by watching this. I can't explain why I haven't watched The Boys until recently. Don't ask me. Time. Let's just say that.
Time is always the answer.
Yeah. But it was interesting to see like how he's this super hopeful Superman archetype. I mean, that's what he is. He's a Superman archetype. it's telling the story of just like, what if Superman was a little, how you say, sloppier with everything, especially with how he handled the hostage situation, and then just because of his origin, basically like let the monster out of its cage. How Black Noir has something going on also to saying like I didn't say anything, and just kind of helped Homelander with like how to handle PR and how to turn this very bad situation into a into not as bad, or the cover up and such, which is after watching almost all of season one, it's just like kind of half of the plot of like the superheroes in the show doing a ton of horrible things and then spinning it via PR as like, oh, I didn't do anything. It's not my fault. Even though Homelander let a plane full of people die. Jeez.
Yeah, that episode got dark.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people try to take that clip out of context, like, whoa, what the heck? And that's always one of my least favorite things about Twitter, with the whole take a clip out of context to dunk on it. And it's just like, don't do that. Anyway, I thought this was a very good batch of shorts. It's definitely uneven, but that's like the thing with most anthology films or shows and what have you.
They're not all going to be winners. There's going to be a few dents in the armor.
I even think like even my favorite one, Memories from Katsuhiro Otomo, while I think the canon fodder is the weakest of the three, it's still really good. You just have to be in the mood to go from one of the best sci-fi short stories to an immensely dark comedy, and then an anti-war message that's not a super long short. And here it's just like, yeah, so what, it opens up with a super violent Looney Tunes and ends with the origin of Homelander's current psyche. It was able to let the world get a little more fleshed out. Though I guess one thing I'm kind of wondering, could they not get the guy who played Billy Butcher, Carl Urban? Could they not get him back as Billy Butcher? Is that why they had to get Jason Isaacs to do his voice?
I don't know if they couldn't get him back or they just weren't trying to, because I don't know if you know this, but when The Boys was written back in 2003, one of the actors who inspired the look of Huey was
Simon Pegg.
Yeah.
I did not know that this was written all the way back then, though. That's interesting.
This comic is almost 20 years old.
That's interesting. I was thinking it would have been like 2010s, not 2000s.
This one goes back a ways. Same with Invincible, too. These were both kind of came out of the same or a similar era on the page.
Yeah, and honestly, I kind of like the shorts that were kind of the most divorced from the overall The Boys aesthetic, if that makes sense. Like I think that's why so many people responded to like John and Soon Hee and Nubian versus Nubian and Laser Baby's Day Out, because it was just like a lot of those could be like their own thing.
Pretty much, yeah. Like the ones where Compound V wasn't the inciting incident are the ones that I think were given more room to tell pretty much like, I don't want to say better stories, but ones that could stand on their own more.
I absolutely agree with that. Because it's like, and even though I liked the one that Justin Roiland and Ben Bayouth wrote, I'm still kind of like getting to that point where I'm just kind of tired of Justin Roiland's style of humor, even though I thought this one was very funny with its dark comedy, and I love just the character alone of the narrator.
The narrator was my favorite.
And I did like that setup of just like, what if someone got really bad superpowers and such? I think some of them don't work well, but I did enjoy like when they go to that like Hansel and Gretel witches like home, and then it's just like, is this the right location? Yeah, no, that's her. That's my mom. Okay. Flashback. Can you show us why she deserves this? And then it's just horrifying. And they're like, oh, geez, oh no, go, okay, wipe her out. the ending with just the narrator about to basically go all Leatherface and peel off his dad's face. It's like, why didn't I love you more? My dad thought in his head as I got closer and closer with a spoon, ready to peel off his face. It's like Christian Slater was made for that kind of character.
Yep.
Then I'm your pusher. Like, of course, this is Garth and is doing like why the boys got such notoriety in the day, just being as edgy as possible. But I kind of get the idea of just like, yeah, why wouldn't superheroes or people with superpowers not have very specific drug habits? Even if it did lead to a very fun, amusing, like small moment of Homelander and the two other superheroes, like just talking and being like, "Yeah, here we are, another PR situation," and then like Maeve, she's just like, "Ah, okay," like, "Hey, everyone." I kind of like her character in the show where she's just like so done with everything. Like she wants to be a superhero, but Homelander keeps wrecking things.
Yep.
And this was a very stacked cast, like for all these shorts. Like, and some of them like appear within like other shorts. Like we have Ben Schwartz, Ben Tataskior, Jenny Yokobori, and then we have like Francis Conroy, Greg Griffin, Keenan Thompson, Kevin Smith, again Christian Slater, Gary Anthony Williams. We have Kieran Culkin, Jason Isaacs, Michael Cera, Kimberly Brooks, and then like Chris Diamantopoulos. And he's always fun to spot. And then Kumail Nanjiani is also there, and Seth Rogen has a small part in BFFs, and Don Cheadle and Aisha Tyler, and then John and Soon Hee have Randall Duk Kim, who was Oogway from Kung Fu Panda, and then of course we have Yeon Yu Jung of Minari. Their dynamics are great. They were probably my favorite dynamics of the bunch. I mean, like, yeah, like at first I was kind of mixed on it. I was a little hit and miss with everything, and even though I feel like I'm above doing this, I sometimes roll my eyes at this like adult animation either being one side shock humor and the other side just glorious amounts of hyperviolence. It's more just like when you realize that's what a lot of American adult animation is going to be, you have to start looking at it as like a gradient scale of just like, okay, which one does it the best, which one does it the worst, and why does it like why is this one doing it the best?
Yeah, like those sort of elements to adult animation are really just like they're the salad dressing. What's most important is like the salad itself.
No, and I enjoyed it, but unless you're not into like Invincible, The Boys, or like the hyper violent superhero stuff, I don't know why you would want to watch these shorts. But otherwise, if you want to see like the varied nature of adult animation and storytelling within adult animation, I give this one a watch. And also if you have Amazon Prime, of course. And for the love of God, do watch The Boys first before this. Don't do what I did.
As someone who has seen The Boys, I very much enjoy this as a whole. And at the very least, if you've seen Invincible and are at least aware of The Boys through cultural osmosis, then yeah, I can recommend checking this out. Or if you're just curious because you're a fan of anthologies, then yeah, this one's pretty easy to recommend. But now we get to talk about something very exciting and something that I think we've only seen one other film like it. We're talking about Catwoman Hunted, a DC original anime film directed by Shinsuke Terasawa from a screenplay written by Greg Weisman. And the film follows Catwoman in an attempt to steal a priceless jewel. This puts her squarely in the crosshairs of both a powerful consortium of villains, Interpol and Batwoman. I don't want to start making comparisons right away to Batman Ninja, but Cameron, what were your just overall impressions of this movie?
In general, it seems like for the last 2 years now, or like one of the last few years. I think the best of the animated films that DC puts out are either the first one or what like the second one. And I think so far Catwoman Hunted is really solid, a really good starting point for DC's direct to video films for this year because it gives you a different take on well, it's not a different take on Catwoman. She's not like, oh, this is an entirely new incarnation of her. This is obviously Catwoman. It's the one you know and love. It's not the Halle Berry film version or anything like that. I liked it. It's a fun heist action film. Not that I don't have my issues with it, but a lot of that is more just a technical issue and not a story thing. Though I do have one little comment about the story, but I still very much enjoyed this film.
I'm not going to try to even rank this among all of DC's animated films, but just specifically talking about this one, I loved it. I love the sort of pretty much seamless combination of the anime aesthetic, which reminds me a lot of things like Lupin the Third, Cowboy Bebop, Great Pretender, basically all of the heist thriller stuff. And I think that works perfectly with this character and to some extent with the overall narrative. We can talk about the third act in a second.
Well, it's not even like the third act. It's just a little bit of it's a little bit before that. But anyway, like I think what's fun about this one, like it has its moments of that it could be a bit more like complex than just it has like a little more substance to its style. But I think it was just like, hey, it's a heist action film. That's all that it needed to be.
Yeah,
What's interesting is that like the animation team behind us at Oriental Light and Magic worked on the animation department of it.
nice.
Yeah, especially Oriental Light and Magic team Inoue because they keep saying, "Oh, Warner Brothers Animation made this," and it's just like this was an anime studio. Don't come to me with this nonsense. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to like with everything going on with the world of animation, I think giving the actual studios credit and the teams that made it is a lot more important than just WB trying to slap their name on everything and make it as hard as possible to know who made what.
I hope the reason why like more animators aren't getting credits is so the credits can be shorter. That seems like a very dumb reason. It is important that the people involved get the credit that they deserve.
Because it's like otherwise, it's a very straightforward movie. It's just Catwoman is just doing her thing, stealing something from probably the worst people you could actually steal from. And then Batwoman gets roped in and then they're basically both targeted by Leviathan's array of villains. It's up to them to basically like get all these supervillains to get off their backs and then beat them and save the day and all that stuff.
Pretty straightforward, but
I'd rather a film be straightforward with its plot and its story than try to hit it like out of the park and try to grab for more than it can.
I think what this movie does really well is maybe compared to other heist films, this one's not as elaborate because at the end of the day, it's still like a superhero story, just it's superheroes mixed with the heist. What this film may lack in complexity, it makes up for like pretty much tenfold with its character dynamics and a little bit of sexual tension because
not to say that's never been a thing.
Batwoman is a lesbian and
right.
Catwoman is bisexual.
Yeah, it has a little bit of that, but I like the chemistry between Catwoman and Batwoman, which I do like that notion of them kind of calling each other out because of their hero names.
Yeah, that was fun. Also fun was seeing Catwoman squaring off against Cheshire.
Yeah, they picked a pretty interesting rogues gallery for this one. Like, well, first of all, we have Elizabeth Gillis as Catwoman, as Selena Kyle, and they're definitely going for more like a, I guess one of the more current incarnations where she's like helping all the women who were like mistreated and such. Like, because I remember that was a thing in the comics, but I remember like the first Batman animated series didn't quite do much of her. She was just like, I'm a rich woman who has or a tendency to put on some spandex and go steal stuff.
Modern Catwoman stories make her out to be a little bit more of an anti-hero as opposed to just the femme fatale.
Right, right. I mean, like, listen, I love the '90s Batman series, but they could have made everything even better if they were allowed to. But I'm sure they're like, hey, this is for kids, and this is messed up, even though it's like, yeah, but this horrifying stuff actually happens in the world, and that's kind of a good thing to teach a kid. No, you can't have it. It's like, okay. We'll just make her a cat woman or a cat lady. And I like Stephanie Beatrice's Batwoman. I know she's using her like the tone of her voice that she would use for her character from Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
But it
But
works.
I thought she brings like this kind of like, I'm not going to say like it's a faux Batman tone, but you can kind of tell she's like it's a persona.
She's definitely putting on airs under the cape and cowl.
Yeah, yeah. I like their friendship between the two of them and just how they're willing to help one another. And because you got the straight man Batwoman and Selena Kyle being the loose cannon of the two. But then we also have Barbara Minerva as Cheetah, who was voiced by Kirby Howell Baptiste, who was in Infinity Train.
She's Grace.
Yeah. And at first I was just like, oh, wait a minute, this is Cheetah. I wonder if we're gonna oh, okay, yeah, this is Cheetah. Which I don't know if I like that full design of just like the anime face on top of the cheetah body. I mean, I'm making it sound much weirder than it is. It's just like how she looked in most incarnations, but then just the anime aesthetic. It took me a little bit to get used to that, but I thought that was like a very imposing look.
When it comes to previous incarnations of the character, this is really like the one major difference that like she kind of transforms into the cheetah, almost like Bruce Banner turning into the Hulk. Or if we're using anime terms, she basically turns into Zarbon from Dragon Ball.
Yeah, or I was kind of thinking like I forgot the character's name. For as much as I'm a fan of Batman and stuff, I keep forgetting some characters' names, like the guy who turns into Man Bats.
Oh, Kirk Langstrom.
Yeah, kind of like that more than what we saw in like Justice League or that Wonder Woman Bloodlines film from yeah, that was a few years ago. I think that was 2020 also. And then we got like Jonathan Banks as Black Mask, and I thought he did a pretty good job, even if I was kind of hoping there would be more Black Mask.
A very minor player compared to the rest of Leviathan. Also,
Yeah.
Keith David as Tobias Whale. That is perfect casting.
I had to take a moment to realize that was him because it's Keith David. He has a very distinct voice. So, and then we also have like Steve Blum, who plays probably the most simple Solomon Grundy incarnation that I've seen. Because I don't know, this one was weird to me when they introduced Solomon Grundy in the third act as like a threat to Catwoman and Batwoman. Because all he did was do his whole poetry slam thing of just like Solomon Grundy, born on Monday, christened on Tuesday, married on Wednesday, killed on Saturday, buried on Sunday.
They always write Grundy weird. Sometimes he can speak like full sentences. Other times he literally is just a zombie.
Or you go the brave and the bold route and you make him a mafia leader. And then of course you got the Justice League version, which I think is everyone's favorite version because and not just because he's voiced by Mark Hamill. It was just interesting to me. I didn't find it too distracting that that was the case, but I guess it was distracting if I found it noticeable to talk about. And then we got like Talia al Ghul at the end and Nosferatu. I guess I never knew about Nosferatu. I feel like I know a little bit more about the DC villain gallery than the Marvel villain gallery. And then there's like Mr. Yakuza, who is voiced by Andrew Kishino, and Dr. Zinzin, voiced by Ron Juan, and Kelly Hu as Cheshire. Like, I mean, like, what did you think about this Rogues Gallery? Did you think that it all made cohesive sense, or do you think it was just like what would be fitting villains? I guess
They did a good job with assembling a pretty decent variety of villains. The thing about Leviathan is the only really important member is Talia al Ghul. This is her operation. So anybody could be involved just so long as like she is the one calling the shots. It's just kind of fun to see villains that really don't get the spotlight too much, like Dr. Sinsin or Ladama.
and oh, what was his name? Boss Moxie, like the old man with the mech suit.
Oh yeah.
I was just like, who the heck is this guy? At first, I was like, that's not Deathstroke, is it? Because of just the facial look. And then the mech suit came out. And I was like, oh, that no, never mind.
Yeah, so Moxie Mannheim is the father of Bruno Mannheim, who is a very prominent Superman villain.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, they definitely pulled from different superhero rogues galleries for this one because they got Wonder Woman, they got Batman, they got Superman.
Even the good guys are kind of deep cuts too. Like we have Julia Pennyworth and King Faraday, who really doesn't show up too much in the present day, if at all.
I think that's why I was so interested with this overall movie because it was like there's a lot of different grab bag of DC characters here. And of course, like Jonathan Frakes, I know he was in like Star Trek and such. So, and he was also in Gargoyles as Xanatos and what have you. We got Lauren Cohan, who was in, like I think she's in The Walking Dead. I think that's her.
Yep.
And yeah, and I'm guessing Pennyworth is like the granddaughter to Alfred, or is it daughter?
Daughter.
Okay, and she's also War Woman, Invincible.
Yep, I remember that.
Yeah. I'm curious to know when we're going to hear more about that. Anyway, now what did you think about the animation? Like, it was cool to see DC go out of their way to get a Japanese studio like Oriental Light and Magic to animate the film. And they got Shinsuke Terasawa, who doesn't have that many directing roles.
This is his feature film debut. He's directed like episodes here and there of other projects.
He was also worked on like visual effects for stuff like Lupin the Third, so that kind of fits that.
Yeah,
He gets to make a pseudo Lupin the Third film, but replace it with Fujiko, essentially. I thought the animation was good. I thought the compositing of CGI when needed was okay, like nothing outstanding. There was definitely all the budget was saved for the action sequences.
isn't that just kind of par for the course for anime in general?
Yeah, it's just like, man, these characters are just standing around a lot recently in these last few episodes. Why is that? And it's just like, oh, just wait, we're getting to that point.
I think this movie looks very stylish. I usually get distracted by CGI mixed with 2D animation, but while it was noticeable in this movie, it's not nearly as bad.
I think it overall looks good. There's definitely a few moments where the animation gets a little clunky, like during that sequence where Catwoman was swinging around the room on the chandelier, like at the party in the first third. I do think it looked a little wonky, the sequence where she got out of there. I think it was like the cinematography, just kind of the camera whipped around too much. And I was just like, "Oh no, like stop. I need to make sure I'm following the action well." It does look good, but if I had to say which one looked better between this and Batman Ninja, Batman Ninja looks way better. And I think that's because Batman Ninja went through the whole thing of making everyone CGI and it was like stylish CGI. Here it's like I like the visual look of Catwoman, but there were moments where I felt like I was watching a Yu-Gi-Oh episode.
Some of the character designs looked a bit generic anime that you will see in like a lot of those shonen series, but this art style worked in service of the narrative.
And we also have to remember that these direct-to-video DC films do not have the biggest budgets. Like, I wasn't expecting this to look as good as like a Sing a Bit of Harmony or some of the anime films that we've talked about recently, or Bubble. But it looks good for what it is. There's always going to be that level of clunkiness with these films due to their time period of when they're produced and the time period of like that the animators have to deal with. So,
That's why I have to be transparent and say that I am grading this movie on a curve, because even though the story I thoroughly enjoyed, I also kind of understand a little bit better how the sausage is made. And I understand that these direct to video films don't get nearly the amount of resources as, a AAA release.
and it also could just be down to execution and just the team itself because sometimes that might be the case, but most of the time it's just money and time. Now, I do want to give a shout out to the composer of the film, Yutaka Yamada, who worked on a ton of great things like Vinland Saga, mostly live action anime stuff like Death Note and the Tokyo Revengers and Kingdom series. But they also did The Great Pretender, which,
I was going to ask if that was the same composer, because
oh my gosh, so much jazz. Like, and that's what it was good. I love the low key jazz that permeated the overall film because it was fitting. It made sense with who the characters were. It's just all that jazz.
I'm glad to know that that was the same composer, because there were so many points listening to that score that it just straight up sounded like it came from the Great Pretender OST.
I mean, in general, this was a really good one. I know we kind of did this last year where we said, "Oh yeah, the first one's the best," and well, the first one was the best of the DC animated films because last year we got Batman Soul of the Dragon and what have you. But I definitely recommend this one. It has its rough areas, but in general, I definitely recommend watching Catwoman Hunted.
All I have to say about the rest of DC's animated slate is Catwoman Hunted is going to be one tough act to follow. Now, for my recommendation, this was really tough because there are so many different movies that I could recommend. The one that I'm actually going to give a shout out to, because not a lot of people talk about it, is Batman and Robin Sub-Zero. It's basically a direct follow-up to the Batman animated series episode Heart of Ice, in which Mr. Freeze he's trying to bring Nora back and kidnaps Barbara Gordon for the transplant. And if you liked that original episode with Mr. Freeze, then you're probably going to enjoy this one too.
Yeah, I remember that one came out. It's been ages since I last saw it, but it was pretty good from what I recall. It kind of came out during a awkward time period where they were like Batman was getting a little long in the tooth and Mask of the Phantasm did not do well. And this was like between Mask of the Phantasm, the Batman Superman team up, and then it was before that Batman Mystery of the Batwoman. A little bit around the same time, if I remember, maybe a year or two later. I have to kind of think about it.
This one came out in 98.
And when did Mystery of the Batwoman come out?
That was 2003.
Okay, so yeah, I was trying to be like, or did it come before Sub-Zero? But no, that's a good one. I definitely would recommend that one also. For me, I have two separate recommendations, but I'm going to choose one. There's a lot more to talk about it because I was originally going to recommend Cromartie High School, this 11-minute comedy anime from 2003. It's basically a parody of those school delinquent dramas that used to be all over the anime landscape. And it's super funny. I mean, a few jokes don't age well, but that's, 2000s humor. But the episodes are so short at 11 minutes that there's not a whole lot to them. It's a very straightforward show. So instead, I want to talk about the 2018 romance drama that's on Amazon Prime called Wodokoi. Love is Hard for an Otaku. It's a young adult focused story where it's about romance with characters who are in their 20s. It's like, oh my gosh, it's not another freaking teenage love story. I am so happy about that. And what's so distinct about it is the first episode starts and ends with the main characters hooking up, like starting dating, instead of like that being the end goal for like most romance anime and such. They get together by the end of the first episode, and then it's about following them and just the drama, the stress, and the highs and lows of relationships. It has like these two other main characters who were like sweethearts from high school, and they've been dating for like years now, and it's been like tough for them at points, and then just like because they know each other so well, and so they can push each other's buttons, and but they also know what makes each other happy. And the goal of our main character, like the two of the main characters, is to find their way of like how they want their relationship to blossom and such. It's really sweet. It's only subtitled only, which I know won't bother most people, but I kind of wish there was a dub at points. And it's funny, it's charming. It's basically Horimiya for young adults. It's got a great opening. The animation by A1 Pictures is pretty good. It's consistently funny. They make all the characters very expressive individuals. And what's kind of funny is like like how we talked about when we covered Japan sinks, how it was really weird to hear someone say Amazon or Starbucks.
Oh yeah.
Well, the team at A1 Pictures were able to get the rights to mention stuff like Mario Kart and Monster Hunter and even show actual video game footage.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's where I'm sure a lot of the budget went, so they can make references to like anime and like video games, because it's all about like these four characters are into otaku culture. It's just different versions of it, like either manga, cosplay, or video games.
Usually like in anime, the product placement is always like very off-brand knockoffs. I can't remember which anime this was from, but like an Amazon called Me Amazon.
I think that was Sunny Boy.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, that was one of the powers the kids had. Or it's like McDonald's or something like that. Or
It's always like one or two letters off.
I know like Kengan Ashura made like has a Nintendo there, but it's called like No Tendo or something like that. It's just interesting when anime actually gets the license to mention these, and I hope someone is able to bring this show to home video and such for like Blu-ray or DVD. It's so good. I definitely recommend anyone looking for an anime that's aimed at more like young adults, because it's like there's not that many of them. So it's nice to see that there are ones that are still coming out, and it's really, really good. Probably one of the best anime from 2018.
I may have to check this out now. That brings this episode to a close. Next time, we may have to talk about a particularly red mammal, but we'll get into that next time. So before we get out of here, Cameron, where can everyone find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at CamsEyeView. I run my own website called camseyeview.biz, where I review animated films and shows from around the world. I also have a Patreon at patreon.com/camseyeview. If you like my work and would like to support me in some way, shape, or form, outside of liking my work, sharing, and following me, that's how you can do it.
And you guys can find me on Twitter at Captain K42. You can check out my quick thoughts on letterboxd.com/CoachK42. And you can find me in all the various Facebook groups just at my name. You can check out Renegade Pop Culture on Facebook and Twitter at Ren Pop Culture. You can also find us on Podchaser and the Banana Meter. And you can listen to all of our podcasts on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen. If you like what we do, give us a rating, give us a follow, do all the stuff. And last but not least, everything can be found at renegadepopculture.com. Need an escape? So do we. That'll do it for this episode of Renegade Animation. We will catch you guys later. Peace out.